Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creation Cryptids podcast. This is the first of the podcasts on our YouTube channel. There are going to be many more talking about the world of cryptozoology with a biblical perspective. So the first cryptid I want to talk about are alien big cats. When we talk about alien big cats, we mean big cats being in places they are not known to be native to, which is not a country in which they are known to be a resident species. I'm here in the UK, so we have a long history, or fairly long history, at least recent history of alien big cats, but I know North America, Australia, these are two other key places that have reports of alien big cats. And the main type of big cat, shall we say, is a large black one, or large compared to a domestic cat, but would say in terms of big cats, a medium to smaller black form of big cat. Something that resembles a melanistic leopard. There are two species of big cat that have melanistic forms. This is the jaguar of South and Central America, and also the leopard, which ranges in Africa, India, across to Indonesia, and even, far eastern China, Russia border with the Amur leopard. But in terms of alien big cats here in the UK, things really came to prominence in the 1970s with the incidents around the Beast of Exmoor. I'm from mid-Devon, tickly cough originally, and so I grew up being well aware of the Beast of Exmoor, and then across the border in Cornwall, the Beast of Bodmin. But my mother was born in Dolverton on Exmoor in Somerset. My grandparents were from Somerset, Dolverton, Exbridge. So well aware of the beast growing up. I had a book by the top investigator of the beast, Trevor Beer, which I bought from the Tantivy shop in Dolverton there. And well aware, interested in the Beast of Exmoor from a fairly young child. My nan had a friend who, she said, saw the beast sitting in a gateway one night. Many sightings around that area. The Beast of Exmoor. The year escapes me, but the 1970s. It was that big spate of killings on Exmoor for a farmer who was near to South Molton, that really hit the headlines, where they sent in commandos, police, everybody was looking. I believe it was close to 100 sheep, I believe, but a lot of sheep were lost, killed to what appeared to be a big cat. Now, when I was in Devon, I think last summer or so, I actually called up the farmer involved. I was interested in interviewing him. He was very cagey. He didn't really want to talk about it. He'd said, look, this was over 40 years ago. Not much to say. I really felt like he did say he still sees it. But then on kind of emailing a follow-up question, his daughter responded and was very, really quite belligerent. She did not want me to have any contact. She said my father did not say he sees it, still sees it. She just told me to leave them alone, which I did, and which kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, which made me think there's something involved with that case that, they really don't want to dig up. So maybe it was more to it than just a big cat, and I don't want to speculate what that might be. Some, I think, reports of cut throats rather than just the marks of big cat kill. So we'll leave that alone. It could be something a bit more sinister. But alien big cats all around the UK. Devon and Cornwall is a major hotspot, I'd say, for the whole UK. But we've got up to Scotland. We got Wales. I'm not aware of any Irish sightings, but definitely over here on the mainland, all across everywhere. We've got Midlands, Derbyshire, Staffordshire, Cannock Chase. We've got even Essex. Even Essex is near to London, and I live in Essex currently. But we do have big cat sightings around Essex. I'm in the woods often. I've found no sign, no scrapings on trees. I've found no spore of a big cat, only canids. There's a very healthy deer population around here, fallow and muntjac, but no sign personally, nothing that would make me think there's a big cat in the vicinity of where I live. But there definitely have been sightings in Essex. I think near Colchester and other areas, not a million miles from where I live, but all over the UK really. And the theory is that in the 1970s, the law changed here. Previously, you did not need a license to keep a big cat. And then they brought in the Dangerous Wild Animals Act, where you need a license. There's the famous story, many of you might know, excuse me, of Christian the lion, who was bought from Harrods and then eventually released back into Africa, because you literally could buy a lion at Harrods. So there were no licenses needed. But when these licenses were introduced, as governments want to do, there was all sorts of regulations and requirements about the size of the enclosure. And some owners, unwilling or unable to afford to, build these enclosures that are required, were facing having their beloved, puma, leopard, lion put down, killed. So rather than that, and in the extra documentary Panthera Britannica, which I have seen, I haven't seen the latest version, but the one that was on Vimeo, they actually got a couple of men that they released. I believe it was a melanistic leopard and a cougar, a puma, mountain lion, into the wild. At least that. It may have been a few more, but that has been confirmed, and that would obviously coincide with the Beast of Exmoor and other things that happened, increase in sightings, a big flap in the 70s, 80s, and onwards. But we don't have that for Australia, to my knowledge. We don't have that for the USA, where alien big cats are sighted. These melanistic leopards, they appear to be. Now, sighting a cougar in North America, a puma, as they call it in the South, or a mountain lion in the West, that's not unusual. That's not alien. One in the UK is, and they have been sighted. But we're talking about melanistic leopards being sighted in the States. And they do, from my knowledge, appear to be more of the leopard morphology than a jaguar, which is more possible because jaguars have been, trail cams in as far as north as Texas, I believe, but not the melanistic variety, which is a lot rarer, and something which is, I don't believe in evolution, but if you do, you would say more likely to be found in a jungle, evolution-wise. But I think animals intelligently adapt, and I would agree more likely to be found in a jungle, no matter what your philosophy on that one. But so alien big cat, I don't know of any laws that might have caused to be released any melanistic leopards, Panthera pardus in the US. So we don't have that, and in fact, accounts do go back further in the UK. I can't give you specific big cats, but there is folklore about black animals. I won't go into detail with it because I don't like talking about things that are demonic or trying to give the devil any glory or airtime. So, but there's you can look back in folklore, I'll say that, and see how these big black cat sightings, they go far back beyond when the law changed. So, and let me say about the UK version of the black leopard, is its morphology is much more akin to the Indonesian leopard. It's much more slightly built, smaller. It's not like the African leopard or the Indian leopard. It's smaller. It more corresponds to an Indonesian leopard. When we're talking about the black cat, as opposed to the sand-colored cat, which is obviously a puma, and it's been described as people saying I saw a puma, as we call them in the UK, a puma, cougar, mountain lion. People that have seen lynx, Eurasian lynx did used to range here until they were extirpated. So people see a lynx and pretty much that's not a leopard or a cougar. They know what that is as a lynx and have been shot and killed in this country. As has puma been captured, a Felicity in Scotland. But I digress. What I'm saying is, it's even to the point somebody described a cat that sounded like a jaguarundi from the Americas, which is a small, not a big cat, but a smaller wild cat, which does bear a passing resemblance to a very small leopard. Again, one witness I remember has described it had an otter-like head, and that certainly suits jaguarundi more than it does a leopard. But I believe what we could be looking at with alien big cats in the UK here, and I've not heard this theory, is actually a subspecies of leopard that is native to the UK. Because we got to remember that, the water levels, the seas, they weren't always at the level they were. Whether you subscribe to Pangea and theories like that everything was clumped together, even though I'd point out that they are still joined if you take the water away. Or, I believe in a global flood in the days of Noah, but whatever you believe, the water levels we know were not always consistent. And there could be a time when there was a land bridge, there was between us and continental Europe. The English Channel is not very deep. And, the land bridges around the world. The Bering land bridge is probably the most famous between far western Russia and Alaska, modern day Alaska, of the non-contiguous state of the US. But leopards are the most adaptable of big cats. They range far and wide. Their range was much further. Far ranging than they do now, just as lions, lions made their way all throughout the Middle East, the Barbary Line, North Africa, I believe, as far as one day Turkey, Anatolia. But leopards are extremely adaptable, and no doubt, they had larger ranges as many of the big cats. And I believe those ranges could have stretched much further than anybody realized. If the Amur leopard can live in cold conditions and have a longer pelage because of that, I believe leopards can survive fine in temperate conditions. They certainly range even up into the montane areas of Africa. And, I'd say as elephants do as well, reading a great book about the hidden elephants of the Cape, the Southern Cape in South Africa. Elephants ranging up to montane areas. But anyway, digression again, because I've got so much I can talk about wildlife as the amateur wildlife biologist that I am. But anyways, I believe that what we could be doing here in the UK is actually an endemic subspecies of leopard, a UK Pantheropardus that is melanistic, which would suit, to me, temperate environments over dry, more savanna-like environments. The other species of leopard subspecies would be found in, which would suit their more tawny, golden with the spots to break them up. Melanistic tends to be more related to jungles, the jungles of India, the jungles of jaguars in South America. Forests here, it would suit that it would be melanistic. Whatever you want to see that as, evolution or intelligent adaptation. But I believe we have a subspecies of leopard, and we can call it Panthera britannica. You can call it something else, but I think that it predates the release of exotic big cats in the 70s from the law change. And that's what people are seeing. Growing up in mid-Devon, like I said, I knew about this very much. It was always a peripheral topic of conversation. Like I said, my grandmother would occasionally bring it up, and especially as I became interested in it. And there were sightings near where I lived, on the road from where I was born, village of Bickley. Interestingly, a little side note, where it's rumored Paul Simon was inspired for the song Bridge Over Troubled Water because of our medieval bridge. And even though Art Garfunkel denied that, we're sticking to it. And I'd like to ask Paul one day, Paul, if you're listening, please get in touch and just confirm that it was our bridge and our troubled water that inspired you for that famous song. But not far down the road from where he was staying at the Fisherman's Cot, there was a sand-colored cat was sighted jumping across the road in front of a man. I think a man was driving a lorry, jumped across in front of him. That area on either side is a good bit of forest. Part of the woods I used to walk in extremely regularly as a child. It extends all the way from my village to the nearest town of Tiverton. We used to call it Bickley Mill Woods. It does have an official name, but I can't remember. But the woods basically stretches, for 4 or 5 miles. And it's a very steep-sided wood. You do not see a lot of people walking in there growing up. We were usually the only ones. I would sometimes go up and down this very steep bits, walk those deer trails. Admittedly, wasn't looking for big cat prints, which I probably should have, but it's not a very accessible forest there. One time, me and my dad literally walked onto like a herd of deer. I mean, there were quite a few of them grazing on the steep deer pass, and we kind of just didn't even really round the corner, probably stepped out from behind a few trees, and those deer saw us and scarpered along the steep pass. But it's not somewhere easily traversable by people. It's a place where wildlife like to frequent, and no doubt with the deer population attracted to big cats. So that was near us. There was another time when I possibly was in the presence of a big cat, or maybe something else, but I don't really want to go into that. But definitely sightings, around where I lived. And alien big cats, they're out there. They could be released exotic pets. That is definitely a factor. But who knows? Who knows? Leopards are the most adaptable of big cats. They have the widest range. They live in the most, different types of environments. When we're talking about temperature, from, sweltering African jungles, Indian jungles, to the armored leopard living, it slipped my mind, but think about that. We have the different species. The snow leopard, it is a leopard, and it lives in the snowy mountains. Long fur, long pelage. It's adapted to be gray. It's got a flat head so it can just peer over rocks and not be too conspicuous. It's a leopard living in a very cold environment, much colder than the UK or Australia or the southern states of America. The mountains of Asia. So leopards are adaptable, and they can even adapt to be very different in how they look. So a smaller, slimmer, melanistic leopard endemic to these other places would make sense to me. Obviously easier to hide, lower calorie intake needed if it's slighter, not so muscular, and melanistic because of tending to live in forests rather than out on an open, savanna type area for the sake of staying hidden away from people. Look, these alien big cats, part that they don't like to cross people. They're, India, leopards can be a problem. Danger to human life, obviously tigers are, or can be, but very, very few. And in the UK of perhaps one attack or wherever a boy got scratched on the face, they avoid humans. Being a smaller variety, seeing a human, they are not going to risk a fight with us. We could defend ourselves against a small leopard, and why risk that when they can take down a rabbit or a muntjac quite easily, and they are, abundant in certain areas. So that's one reason why we've had less encounters, because they're definitely not trying to stalk us. They're trying to stay away from us. And reality is, a leopard could hide in grass that is, not very tall at all. They say a lion can hide in 7 inches of grass. I'm not sure about that, but probably 10 inches of grass, any melanistic leopard could hide, be still, and you could walk by pretty close and not even know they're there. Never mind in a hedgerow. I may have walked by them growing up and not even had a clue they were there. So it's not a question that they can live here. UK is an example because it's where I live and I know the stories here best. Plenty of deer. We lost our bears and our lynx and our wolves a long, long time ago. So there's no other predator for these deer. Foxes can't take them down. Badgers obviously not. There's literally a Scottish wildcat cat. The population is way too high. Just the other day I saw a deer mangled by a truck on the road. There's way too many of them, especially the invasive muntjac. They're crawling all over the place. Haven't got a nice place where I could take a few out for some fresh venison, but maybe one day. But they're causing a lot of damage to our plants, especially our shoots springing up. Just they're eating up everything and digging up the woods. But anyway, not a rant about muntjac or invasive species. Just to say there is plenty of deer, and if the big cats are here, they're good for our environment because they're helping to keep the deer population at least a little bit in check. But it's very, very high here in the UK for our population the size of our small island. So they're fitting in fine. And, please leave a comment, your opinions, any sightings you've had. The only sighting, and this will seem completely random, that I ever think I might have had of a big cat was not in the middle of Devon, but it was not the middle of, but in London. I used to live and work in London. And this one day I was waiting for the train home. This is Hampstead Heath area. And I'm looking up the railway track of the overground train, and there's a black cat by the railway track. And I'm like, that looks a little bit bigger than your average tiddles. And it walked across the railway track. Now, if you know about railway, not the sleepers, but the actual track itself, the rails, they're fairly high, and a domestic cat would hop across that. This cat walked over them quite easily. It was black. It walked over them and then walked across the track. And this is the thing, no presence of mind to get out my phone, try and take a picture, because your mind's telling you this is just a cat. But then you start arguing internally and say, whoa, hold on, it's walking across those rails. It's not jumping across them. It looks fairly substantial. And by then it's too late. It's gone. Didn't take a picture that I could then analyze later. But that was the nearest thing I can say. And I believe there has been a report actually from Hampstead Heath. I know in Sydenham in London, a man was attacked in his back garden, knocked down by a black leopard. So even in London, they've been seen extremely adaptable. And that's all I've got to say tonight about alien big cats on the Creation Cryptids podcast. But we'll be exploring many more topics, from Loch Ness, Bigfoot, many different things I can really wax lyrical about. I've studied cryptozoology for many years. My background, I'm a fellow of London Zoo. That doesn't seem as grand as it is. It's a scheme that you can join, but I got in there by being a amateur biologist, and hey, they let me in, so I'm happy to be there. It gives me a few perks, but been around wildlife my whole life, studied it my whole life, and I know a few bits and pieces, and hopefully I can help inform and entertain you with these cryptozoology podcasts. I have a couple of connections. One of them is Dr. Bill Gibbons, so hopefully he'll come on at some point. But anyway, I've got no slogan to leave with. If you can think of a good slogan, let me know. But other than that, thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. God bless you. See you next time.